They say when a baby is born, so is a mother. But while you are there to help your baby grow into the person he or she is meant to be, who is there to help you? Many women feel lost and alone when they become mothers, wondering, who am I now? Sometimes it feels like the transformation from woman to mother is as radical as a caterpillar's transformation into a butterfly. Did you know that inside the chrysalis, the caterpillar literally turns into goop before it rearranges itself into a butterfly? This podcast is about the goop, what soul transformation looks like as you transition from being a woman to a mom. Your baby's growth matters, but yours does too. You're not alone. I'm your host, Brittany Ming. Welcome to the Motherhood Metamorphosis.
Welcome everyone to this episode of the Motherhood Metamorphosis. I'm your host, Brittany Ming, and today we are talking to Danielle Johnsrude. Danielle is passionate about leadership and serving others to do their best work and see their potential. She is a higher education professional working in post-secondary education for nearly 15 years. She believes in intentional conversations and lifelong learning and living on mission. In December 2020, Danielle's best friend, teammate, and colleague, her husband, lost his short battle with cancer. She has been learning how to navigate grief while leading and parenting a child through this experience, as she is mom to a creative and inspiring 4-year-old daughter. Danielle loves her West Coast ocean living, listening to CBC and podcasts of all varieties, hand dripping a freshly roasted cup of coffee, and learning to be grateful in all circumstances while finding purpose through the challenges. So welcome, Danielle. I'm so happy to have you here today.
Thank you for having me.
So we have a mutual friend, Kelly, and she connected us. And I'm so glad she did, because just in our brief email interactions, I actually told Kelly the other day that you had a lovely soul, and I was really excited to talk to you. So thank you so much for coming on here today. I wanted to start out with, we shared a little bit of your story in the introduction, but today I wanted to talk specifically about grief and losing a life partner. And you so graciously agreed to come on and tell your story. So I wonder if you could tell us about your husband and his life and your love and your loss.
Yeah, my husband Ian is quite a unique soul. I actually first met him almost about 9 years ago when he was on a contract work. And my first interaction was kind of like, who is this person? But our friendship grew, and it really grew out of friendship and mutual respect. And then eventually turned into this really interesting love story. You mentioned our mutual friend, Kelly, that had brought us together, that had brought you and I together. Both Kelly and my husband ended up working together, but we worked in student housing. Actually, we come from post-secondary background. And, being able to work a few projects together and just gain a better sense of friendship with each other kind of launched us into this relationship. And so we actually started dating in May of 2013, and he proposed in August 2013, and we were married in November 2013.
Oh, wow.
So it was quite this intense journey. And when we kind of had decided that we were going to be together and move forward in a marriage, it was like, we're going to put all this effort and work into it. And he was just like this soul that pursued things with excellence and intention. And he just wanted to do this right, wanted to do marriage right, and wanted to, both of us were pretty career minded, and we're like, if we happen to stumble upon a relationship or stumble into family life, that's great. But it wasn't something that we were both kind of on that journey until we found each other. And so because we did similar type of work, we really connected over those things, and we kind of drew the best out of each other. And we moved out to the West Coast January 2014. And so for us, it was kind of this intense meeting. And then through it, he's one of these individuals that has always the half glass full kind of person, so optimistic and so about seeing challenge. And he's when he got cancer, he even said, you know what, this is an opportunity for us. We are going to grow so much just because of this opportunity. And I was like, who are you? And that was he's kind of a force to be reckoned with. And as someone who, I'm a little bit scatterbrained and a little bit shy, but also very passionate, and I love relating to people. So we were kind of this nice, happy complement. And we chose to do life as an adventure and say, what's the next step? And so we did similar work. We moved out here to the island. He worked at a university. We renovated our house, and like he's even the type like just pursued so much interest, but took so much care and intention out of everything that he did. And so, about 3.5 years into our marriage, we had our first daughter, but we were also doing, both of us, our master's degree. And he's like the type of person. I started to do my master's, and I was like, we moved out here, and I said, you know what, I don't know if that's the journey I want to go on anymore. And he's like, you always wanted to do it, so we're going to do it. And I'm like, but we can't afford to do it. And he's like, you know what, we're just going to make it. And he did that. And then a few months later, he's like, you know what, like, I think I'm going to do my master's too. And I was like, what? We've been asking you to do this forever. Like, you are in post-secondary, you're a leader, you're going to do this. And he's like, yeah, my mom told me, you told me, but boss told me, but I just decided one day I'm going to do my master's. So he applied to his master's and started the journey too, because he said I was doing it. And he said, what better way to be able to encourage you, to support you, and to also grow myself. And so we both went on this journey of doing our master's together. Through it, I got pregnant about halfway through. Well, he was working full time and I was working full time, and we just navigated this journey. So everything was always like a sprint. I felt like, I'm like, when is our just marriage going to fall into this pattern? And so in 2017, we had our beautiful little girl, Harper, and he was just the most wonderful dad. He decided to do the parental leave because I had just gotten a contract in kind of my dream area in student affairs. And he wanted me to persist through it. So he took the parental leave and stayed with her the entire year while doing his master's, while doing some consulting work, and just journeying with me. And I felt that was its own challenge. Like, I could unpack that experience and how difficult it was to decide to go back to work, and how you go from this mom guilt of like, I'm not good enough mom, or I should be at home with my child, or all these different things. But he kind of helped navigate that. And he was always there challenging and championing me. Like, I even like remember, like, I was at work one day full time. I had a project due for my master's and had to be printed. He's running across town with Harper in his little like pouch. And then they have time and they come write me a card and say that they're so proud of me. It's just those type of things that he was always doing. And he was this visionary. Like, he had this vision for our marriage and for our life and how we were going to be as a couple. We did some consulting work on the side together. And, from the journey of doing our master's, from parenting to going into the workforce, hitting COVID. And he was just this, again, I was just so overwhelmed and this force to be reckoned with. And he says, Danielle, it's our time to lead. Like, what more of an opportunity we have to lead our people, to support our people. And he was like the front ahead leading that challenge. And so that's March 2020. And about 4 months later, he started to develop the sinus infection. We couldn't figure what this was. And he, in the summer, started to grow sores in his mouth, and we were tested and they're like, it's not cancer. We're like, oh, thank goodness. Then too, it was cancer. And we were told in September that it was cancer, that it was a 1 in 2 million type of cancer, but it was treatable. And they were so happy about that. So we're like, okay, here we go. And he's like, he worked until October, and he's like, we're going to do this. We have a good foundation. We have a good marriage. We have this beautiful child, this beautiful house. We are going to grow again our leadership capacity, and we're going to grow together as a couple. And yeah, and he went through the most incredible journey. He's like one of those people that you watch, and he was just so inspiring through even his cancer treatment. Like, he would go where he had to go get radiation. He was on, like, he'd have to go for 5 days, get radiation treatment, then he would come back home. And I was like, well, I need to go with you. He's like, no, I'm capable. I can walk to my treatments. So, every Sunday I'd pack him his food for the week with little notes every day to encourage him through this journey. And he's like, I got this. Like, he's like, I want to show up, like when he first got cancer, and we come from a faith background too. I was like, oh, we gotta pray for your cancer or whatever. And he's like, I want to be a difference to my doctors. I want to be a difference to my family. And then, yeah, I'd like to get better from this. But it was always about other people first, and who he was going to be and how he was going to show up. So he made it his mission every day to say hi to every single person that he connected with at the cancer clinic, to ask them about their day, to try to make a joke. And then every single night he would call me and ask me about my day, how it went with Harper, and then what I was grateful for that day. because there had to be a good thing in the day. And he would always say, DJ, what's the best part of your day? And so through his even cancer journey, I'm trying to like shape this kind of man he was, and partner for me. Like he was always concerned about us and other people. And, and so we go through this journey, and there was a hiccup in December that they felt was unrelated to the cancer. But nothing sat right for me. Nothing about this felt good. And going through COVID and not being able to go in to appointments with your spouse and to advocate was really, really difficult. And on December 23rd, they called us to say cancer was everywhere in his body. And, when you get a phone call like that about the person you most love in your life, you're like, but no, we can still do this. And I remember saying, you're not going to die. And then he's like, oh, DJ, I'm not, I'm going to push. And 4 days later, he passed away. But in the hospital again, it was about others. Like everything was about who, like he held on to my parents, who arrived from Ontario. His parents were here. His sister was here. And when my parents arrived into the hospital, he grabbed my parents' hand, and he's like, to my mom, he's like, I know we didn't always agree on things. It's just like, and he's like, but I want to thank you for the best 7 years of my life because you gave me your daughter. And I want to thank you for that. And he held my dad's hand, and he's like, Dan, you're a good man. And he's like, I need you to know that. And you are going to take care of these girls. I know that. And I just want to thank you. And he's like, and so he did that. So he like blessed them. And then he said to me, he's like, DJ, you're going to be okay. He's like, in 6 weeks, you're going to go back to work. And I was like, no, there's no way I'm losing you, like forever. He's like, you're going to go back to work, and you're never going to give up on your dreams because I know that about you. And he's like, and even if I'm not here, your dreams matter. And I was like, well, what do you want to do for Harper? Like, who do you want to be? Like, how do I, he's like, you are her mom and you're going to know what to do. He's like, but I want you to know that to never lose a sense of adventure with her. That she knows that we do hard as a family, to know that her church community cares about her, and that I love her very, very much. And that's all. And that's all I want to know. And then he's like, and I need you, if you can send this email to my bosses to say thank you. So I'm sending his leadership an email. And then he turned to his doctor and he said, I want to thank you for everything that you did for me. And, and he died on the 27th. And so it was just like his end of life is a showcase of how he was through his life, kind of a force to be reckoned with around just the possibility and everything. Like, I wouldn't say he was like, you meet people and you're like, well, they're just kind of a cheesy, like they have no real grip on reality. I think he always knew that life was short and that we needed to, he always said that when he died, he wanted to fall into heaven tired, is what he used to say, because he's like, what's the point if I'm not going to work hard in this life to make this difference? And so, I lived that way. And then I think his life has helped me through my current journey. And so to lose a partner like that has been just world shattering. And, only being together for less than a decade felt like, most of my life, because I think the foundation, when you are with someone, you become one with them, and you give and take of each other, right? Like there's that sacrifice into that relationship. And so as I reflected in my first few weeks of grief, is just how much our relationship prepared me for this moment, the ups and the downs of it, his attitude and optimism, his ability to even teach me how to be grateful in circumstances that are just feeling like beyond what you could be grateful for, and to recognize and embrace like those things and those values in our everyday life. And that's been the new challenge of navigating that with my daughters. Like, how do we keep him alive in our family and who we are? So it's a little bit about my story and meeting him.
I mean, I'm just struck hearing about him, and I like feeling all the love that you have for him. And I feel emotional, like hearing your story, and not that it's so sad, but it is, but that you loved him so much, and like that he was just this light in the world. And thank you for sharing about him. Like, he is and was and always will be just this beautiful person in the world. Tell me about your daughter. Tell me about how you talk to her about her dad now, and maybe when you told her that daddy was gone.
Yeah, that was that's tough. I was having my moment just even thinking about it. Because I remember like getting her to the hospital to say goodbye. And I'm like, was that ever a right decision? Because, everything in her interactions with him was so good, they were so close. But, when we brought her to the hospital room, she gave his kisses and said goodbye. And she doesn't really remember that moment. And I'm actually kind of thankful for that because she only remembers the phone calls like in between the hospital visit. Well, where he passed away was actually about an hour and a half away from where we live. And so we had to go to a hotel. And then the next morning we drove home. And my husband's sister was there and his parents and my parents. And we're having this conversation. And it's Christmas time too, so she's jumping around and she's so full of joy, like she doesn't really understand. And then we were talking about golf. My husband played golf and she said, well, Daddy's teaching me how to play golf, Mommy, when I turn 5. And I said, well, Daddy's not going to be able to teach you how to play golf. And she's like, no, Daddy's going to teach you how to play golf. No, Granny's going to teach you how to play golf. And I said, Daddy isn't here. We had told her that he had died and what that meant. And for us and our family, we talk about it being in heaven. So for her as a 3-year-old, it's pretty abstract. And so I said, he's not going to be able to do it. Like for her, he's always went to the hospital and come back, hospital and come back. And so when she recognized that, she burst into tears and started crying. And she's like, but my daddy is teaching me this. And I said, no, Daddy is not here. He's going to live here, but he's not here. And she cried and cried and cried. And it was for that first moment. And that was about 2 to 3 days later after he had passed away that he wasn't coming back home. And so from then I said, well, how do we keep him here in terms of who he was and is to her? Because he was going to teach her how to golf. And so we struggled with those like physical moments of like she was connecting the dots, the space that he wasn't here. Like we had the place on the couch where he kind of spent most of the time, even when he wasn't ill, it was right by the ocean, so he could see out. And so I sat there and she's like, that's Daddy's spot. You can't sit there. And she burst into tears. And I said, okay, honey, and I pulled her into my lap and she's like, so, Daddy would really want us to share. Do you think? And she's like, yeah. And I think Daddy wants to share these moments with us too, even if he's not here. And so from then I made it a point to not shy away from questions she had, which were really hard because all I wanted to do was just kind of curl in a hole and be left alone. And so she started to talk about like where Daddy is and what does that mean. And so we would have those conversations to like his favorite song, like one of his favorite songs would come up and she wants it to stay, where I just wanted to change that channel because it hurts so much, the waves of just like this intense experience that you're having. And so I would feel it, like I would cry myself. And then we would talk about that. And so one of the things we started to do right off the bat is talk about Daddy memories, like what she loved most. And I started to record those because at 3, I started to think about how am I going to have this conversation for when she's 10? Is she really going to remember that her special dates with Daddy at the park or special breakfast? Because he would make her special breakfast every day and they would listen to Saturday morning cereal bowl and sing and dance and he'd play guitar with her. Like, how do I capture these things? So every day we would talk about something and we would record it. And then every day, and then we started reading more books and talking about what are those feelings that she's bringing to the table? Like, why, like, is she sad? And at 3, they're just starting to understand like what sad and mad is, and just kind of going and like wrestling those things from putting a book together with like, it says Harper's dad and it sits in her bedroom so she can open it every day and see how much love he had for her. And so like every occasion we go through, we talk about like his birthday just passed in January, and the sense of adventure is something we want to honor and embrace. And so we say, what's that sense of adventure that we're going to have this year together? What is the trip that we're going to do? What is something that we're going to experience? What do you think Dad would have loved about this? And then we try something new. So we're like, what are we going to try new this year? Like I invested in the stock market because he would have liked doing that. I didn't want to, but it's my new thing this year. So we would talk about that. And this a couple of weeks ago, we're watching a movie and it was Ice Age, and she sees the saber-toothed tiger who makes the joke. And she starts laughing and laughing and laughing. She's like, he is hilarious. My dad would love this. He is so funny. And so we have been sharing this past year how funny her dad was. So it's just all those moments that, you know, you get the pang of being really sad or wanting to turn it off or not touch it, where we just kind of sit in it. And his parents have been so great about that too. And so we just kind of we call it leaning into it, even to the point of like, oh, mom, why are you crying? Like, I don't like it when is your heart still broken? That's what she asked me. And I said, yeah, my heart is broken. And, you know, it will heal again, but it's going to take time. And sometimes those little pieces, those little memories still have they hurt mommy's heart. And, but there's also so much happiness in those moments too. And so we go back and forth with that. And so it's been, you kind of wrestle with these things all the time. Yeah. And lately, like, she has those fleeting memories. Like, I can tell when she's sad or she's sitting, and I said, what are you thinking about? She's like, I was thinking about my last birthday. And not her last birthday I'm like, your last birthday? But that's in October. She's like, no, my last birthday with daddy. And I'm like, go tell me about it. And some of the memories are fleeting, and I think that's bothering her. But the feelings of what it was is still there. So we really try to get to and then working with her daycare providers to be open and honest and saying, like, we talk about it. If she talks about it, can you journey with her through it? And they've been so gracious about doing that as well.
Yeah. I loved all of the practical things that you shared about just stepping into those moments with her and being so real and thinking about her grief journey and your grief journey. And I'm sure that they're separate, but there's just this intersectionality of like that you're journeying together and healing together. Does that resonate with how I'm translating this? That's what I'm hearing from you.
It is. And I think my healing it is going to be a work in progress for a long time. And I think one thing with grief is you never, like, I think it was actually Andrew Garfield that said it just recently about his mom passing, is like the grief or the tears that you shed are just all that love that you didn't get to share with that person being expressed out of you. And so I kind of try to take that lens of it. And so she doesn't necessarily understand that it's grief and it's impacting her in a way. And I've been trying to get that as a parent. It's like, is she just being poor, or is this something like from this past year's experience that has been impacting her? But my journey, being able to openly talk about it, because as a person, I've always been challenged with being able to share my personal feelings and being able to speak like, this is what I'm feeling, and that's okay to feel this way. And this is what I know to be true about like moving forward with it. And it's forced me to kind of actually have to practice that within myself. And so, yeah, it is definitely linked and shared, but I actually don't know what I would do if I didn't have her, to be honest. I think that this journey there's also a reason to get up in the morning too. Like, you're like, I want to be a good parent to her. Doesn't mean that I'm not going to have my really, really bad days, which you definitely do. And then sometimes you're just stressed out of parenting. And I'm like, is this just parenting? Is this the grief? Is this everything hitting the fan at the same time, which it usually is? And I think they're definitely interwoven. And I think that's been the craziest part of it, is also not trying to project my feelings, but knowing that she has something there too, that she's trying to pick up on it without pushing like what I'm feeling onto her. Like, she doesn't love it when I cry. I will say that. And we've had to unpack that a lot. And I'm like, it is okay to cry. And why is mommy crying? Like, why does that make you upset when mommy cries? And I think it brings her back to probably the feeling that she experienced so long ago. And so we've had to really, like, it forces us to like, challenge it with each other. I mean, it's given her, one of the things, the beauty in it, the ability, the emotional intelligence already of her to sit in some of these feelings, like thinking like about saying goodbye or thinking about life and death in that moment has been, I don't think that I would have had these conversations. Obviously not if your spouse, like you think about it being a grandparent, that's going to be experienced with first. Even to the simple thing of like at his scattering of ashes, where we all were together and we were in his favorite like football jersey. And then one of the things that we did is his favorite color is green. And so I know this is not environmentally friendly, but we had this monster balloon. And when we scattered the ashes, we let the balloon go, and it was super cloudy, and it just disappeared behind the clouds. And for her, like she was saying goodbye, and she was waving to that balloon. And so for her, she was able to touch and feel those things. And she talks about that balloon all the time. Like, and she's like, I wonder if Daddy's holding that balloon right now. And I'm like, oh, like maybe. And so I think, yeah, as you asked, it's connected for sure.
Yeah. I heard you say that you were a person who wasn't as comfortable talking about your emotions or feelings and how this has shaped you in the way that you interact with your daughter. How has it shaped you, like in other ways in your life? Have you
Mm.
found that you've been able to, as a woman, has that blossomed in other areas of your life where you've been able to share more of yourself with others and your feelings?
Yeah, it's shaped me as a leader, as a woman too. Like it's not a like it's that vulnerability and compassionate leadership, and understanding that everybody's coming with a story to the table, and it impacts their ability to work, to live, to move forward. And so through that, I went back to work 6 weeks after on a gradual return, and my husband and I worked in the same workplace. And so he was a leader that was known, and I was just like, how am I going to do this? Everybody's just going to be looking at me like the sphere of influence in my personal life to hear. But I'm like, no, I have Sheryl Sandberg, CEO of Facebook, has written, I think it's option B. I read that like 2 weeks after my husband passed away, and I jumped into it and saying like, how did she lead? I'm not a CEO, nor do I have a position of influence like that. But I'm like, how can I, because how do I leverage this? Because it is part of who I am. Not leveraging it as like you use it as a tool, but how can I lead from this place to
Mhm.
be supportive? How, and especially during COVID, like everybody's had some sort of loss, whether it's like the capital T trauma or small T trauma or a big loss, like literally like mine. Everybody's lost a way of life. Everybody's lost a way. Some have lost jobs. So I'm like, yeah, this is a part of me. Like I remember moving into this new role, and I introduced myself as a leader, what my core values are, and I will say, I say I'm not afraid to talk about the elephant in the room. And the fact is, a year ago, I lost my husband, and so what does that mean? It means that sometimes things come up that hit me as a leader that I don't understand, because I don't know, it's hitting me from a place of where that loss is. And so just like you, I want to understand how I can help you through these things, because so it's like the iceberg. We don't understand most times who and what is below the surface. So for me, it's like how I look at my employees, or how I am saying, okay, there's more to them than what I see. And how can I best support them? So yeah, as a woman, like you go through these confidence things when you lose someone too. Like I just felt this lack of confidence, and I'm like, well, I don't need a partner to shape my confidence. That's not what it is. It's that you become unbalanced. You like, you've worked to create this lifestyle together, to parent together, and then you lose that. And so I had to challenge myself back sometimes, like, and just say, you know what, like as silly as it is, because my husband used to say to me, like, you are more, you are enough, you are loved. And I have that on my computer, because it's like that quick reminder that I'm already all these things, but, and what can I do with this? I can help people explore the mess in the day to day. Like, what is the feelings that are, what are they feeling, and how is that maybe impacting the work? Can I give you a break? Like I'm more compassionate that way than I was before. I was more about deliverables and expectations, and it's challenged me that way to be more patient and kind to myself,
Mhm.
mainly kind to myself.
Yeah. I really like the way you talked about how can I use this in my life, because it's not about ignoring that this history is your history. It's about saying, now that this is part of my life, how is this going to shine a new light on every experience and every relationship that I am moving forward in? And I think that your situation is your story, but other women are bringing other types of stories to the equation, maybe things that were completely unexpected. Like for my life, I have twins, and both of them have some special needs, like autism and ADHD and learning disabilities. And that really grounded me for a bit. Like it was like, what happened? Like what is this thing, and how am I going to move forward from this like shift in the way I thought my parenting journey was going to go? But it has really shaped the way that I have learned to interact in the world, whether I am, feeling more compassionate to a child who has a meltdown in a store, or whether it's my child or somebody else's child, or women I meet online and the conversations we have about parenting, or they're going through their own diagnosis or things like that. It's like using those instances to say, how am I going to show up in new ways in the world
Mm-hmm.
with this burden I'm carrying? And I pause for a moment because I'm like, is that the right word? But I think maybe it is, because we are all carrying these burdens. And sometimes we need help shouldering them. And sometimes we can shoulder somebody else's burden and saying, I'm going to extend my compassion to you so that we can keep upright together.
Yes.
And then sometimes you have to accept that strength from others because you need help staying upright. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that that's such a beautiful way to live and be in the world, but it can be so hard too, because it's like shifting that focus and like pushing it outwards and saying, this is how I'm going to live my life. But it does take emotional strength. And I see that in you. So thank you for sharing that with us. So I have a question that I like to ask is, tell me about who you are on the other side of this story. And I know we talked about a little bit in our emails about when did you start feeling like you again? And then you had a really poignant answer for that. So I was wondering if you could share what you wrote to me in our emails.
Yeah, I'm like, I think I had started to, I talked about it from my parenting journey, that I started to feel like myself a few years after my daughter was born. And then you lose your spouse and you completely are not yourself anymore. Like, I feel like I lost a part of me, like I was so off balance. And so I think I have, I don't know who myself is. I think that's what I was saying in the email that I wrote you, is that I am having to learn about who I am again. And I don't think that it'll be the same person that I was before. And so it's being able to sit in that place of who that person is becoming, and starting to get comfortable with that person. And I think that is where I am right now, being a year out from a loss. There's like having to do all the anniversaries, having to do all this stuff by myself. And I wasn't by myself. I have a wonderful community, but getting to that point and you're like, and now what? Who am I? And what does that mean now? And so this year, my word of the year for New Year's was dreams and future. And so it's like, in order to move forward, you need to have a dream and you need to have a hope for a future. And so for me, I'm dreaming for what my life might look like now, without from where it was to where it is, because my dreams shattered on December 27th, 2020, and where I thought I was going. And so, yeah, I think my answer to that was, I'm gonna learn who I am in this journey now and who I'm becoming.
Yeah. I think that's just really honest. I think so hard. We want to be so certain of like, this is who I am now, even like after we had, like you talked about when you had your daughter and then it took you a couple years to figure out who you were. I think a lot of times we want to have that definite answer. Like the transition time is so hard to just either define, accept, or it's so uncomfortable that we're just like, no, 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 like this is who I am now, and I am this person, and I'm fine and I'm comfortable. But I think admitting that you're like, I'm in transition, I don't know who I am anymore. It's going to take time to figure it out. I think admitting that is like sometimes half the journey to figuring out who you are and who you're becoming, because saying I don't know is the best honest answer in the moment. So I think that's a good answer.
Thank you. And I think that what's been hardest, because like you want to label it too. Like, I'll always say like I'm a mom or a leader, or I used to say I'm a wife because I was really proud of that like label, but I could say widow. And I've been really struggling with that label. And I'm like, am I that though? Like, and I know some people have a love-hate relationship with that word. And, you know, I still have my wedding rings on. It's like, I don't like, it is a journey. And this is like, I'm deciding there's going to be times when things become right again for me. But I'm like, who I was, like, I look at marriage as that journey too, and parenting. And I'm like, who I was when I met Ian in 2013 is no longer the person that I am today. And I wouldn't have changed anything that's happened on this journey outside of maybe like losing him. Yes. But the pieces of myself that I've become through it, you know? And so, yeah, I think in next year I'll have a different answer for you. And then in 5 years from there, it'll be even.
Yeah, there's a lot of hope though in saying that next year I'm going to be a different person and in 5 years I'm going to be a different person. I think that's a hopeful answer. I think sometimes we
Mhm.
can feel really downtrodden by the transition and thinking I would just want to cling to that person I was in the past. But if you try to stay there, like you just feel more and more down because you can't hold on to that person anymore. So
Can't
that's
keep looking behind,
yeah,
right? And
yeah.
so for me, it's like if I want to dream and have a hope, I have to understand that I'll be moving through things, right?
It was interesting when you were talking about how losing your husband has made you a more compassionate leader. And I was struck by the fact that you said this was during COVID. And so people have experienced different types of grief and different types of trauma. So, our final question is what would you tell another woman who's walking the same path as you did? And I think in our world right now, there is a lot of loss, either in like
Mm,
death or loss of dreams, but specifically, maybe if a woman has lost a significant person in her life, maybe a spouse, maybe it's her mother, maybe it's her best friend, like somebody who has died,
yeah.
what would you tell her if she's listening right
Mm.
now?
As like, don't compare yourself to any other journey or pain. I think we like to minimize our pain and our situations to be like, well, you know, that is way worse. And you're right, it might be way worse in circumstance, but it's still real. It's still real to you, and it's still painful, and it's still difficult, and it's yours. And people do want to share in that. A lot of people won't know what to say to you, and that I think is real, and that's okay. So, like releasing other people of expectations, even those that are close to you, because going through things like this are really hard. And if you haven't journeyed on them, it's actually really hard to enter into some of those spaces sometimes with people. I'd also say, like, I obviously didn't do this alone, right? So I've definitely had therapy and counseling and coaching. And for me, that has been impactful because it allows me to journey through some of the challenge points and to kind of speak back to myself, and to journal and to be real with that circumstance. And so for me, and sometimes it's medication too, depending on that journey. Like it's so, and it's okay to be open about it, but it's also okay not to. If you're not comfortable sharing in those spaces, I think that is fine as well. But I think for me, that's been the big thing, is that a lot of people won't know what to do or say. And oftentimes we get put in that space that we have to communicate what we need, which is really, really hard because as the survivor or the person going through it, that's a big expectation to put out there. But that's just kind of, that's what it is. And to kind of connect yourself with community. I mean, being in isolation and any of these things, like isolation is a breeding ground for so much, right? It's for hopelessness and particularly. And it's a breeding ground for not processing your feelings and not letting those feelings out. It's a time to obviously be quiet, to have space for yourself. But when you're actually feeling in those spaces that are difficult, needing to be part of a community, whether that's your kids' friends groups, your friendship group, whether it's a religious group, whatever that is, whether it's a bereavement group, having some sort of community speak into you and being there for you, to champion you and journey with you is, I don't think I'd be where I am without that. Like I talk about my work group, my church group, my friend group, even though my family is thousands of kilometers away or thousands of miles away, I still feel supported. And like, and to, for me, also going through that is, it's okay to be in the moment, but you don't want to stay in the wallowing, because that will take over. And it's day by day. You might go 18 steps forward and then 52 steps back, and it's cyclical. So those are the things. If you're navigating that, there's so much out there for support. And that has been overwhelming for me, is to realize that other people are going through a similar journey.
Yeah, that's so important. I think, and just so many of the things that you spoke to today about walking with this through your daughter, I just think that was really practical. I think sometimes people think, how does she do that? Or how would I go through that? And people don't share those stories. So you wonder, how can anybody survive? Like, how would I speak to my own children if they lost their dad, or if I lost my husband, or whatever it may be? So I think that the way you spoke about it today and just said, this is what I did, and these are the conversations I had, and the videos we recorded, I think that gave us a little glimpse into what it means to walk through a deep loss and still live. Like, you lived through it, and you are living, like, and you are continuing to walk and live through that. So thank you for opening up that window for us to see.
Not a problem. There are moments and times, and I think I said this in my email to you, is you think about this and you hear these stories and you're like, I would never be able to survive. And I remember we had a friend that had something go through this journey, and I was like, I could never go back to work. I could never do this. I would never be able to do this without you. And then you do. And then you're like, holy cow.
Yeah.
And so how did I do that? And so I think that's what I think is so good about hearing people's stories and navigating, is because it is that motivator. And that's one of the things, is I found a group of people in a podcast and a course that really helped me navigate it. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's where they are 18 months from now. I could be there too. And so I saw hope again. So it was, yeah. So thank you. Thank you for even reaffirming that in myself.
Yes. Yeah. I think that that's the power of storytelling, is that it provides a window of hope to say, this is not what I'm in right now, is not all there is in life for me, because someone else has walked this path. And as I am moving forward, that could be my story as well. Well, to end up our time together, I feel like this is a jarring transition we're making here to kind of I do these rapid fire questions at the end, and this has been such a emotional conversation. So, but we have our rapid fire questions that are just for fun. So are you ready for these?
Yes.
All right. The first one is, which Disney princess would you like to take out to coffee?
Oh my gosh, my daughter would love this question. She's a fan. Okay, I have to take Princess Anna, because I am curious. I am curious about, like, you know, she had wanted to jump into that marriage thing pretty quickly, and then also to be the sister of someone like Elsa. So.
Yes, I love her energy. She's great, and she's so, like, spontaneous. Yeah, I think she'd just be a lot of fun. All right, what is one thing you must have on your nightstand?
I have my lavender pillow spray, my night spray. Like, one of the things is like grounding myself before I fall asleep and creating routine. That's one of the things I've learned in grief, is like creating these safe routines and making sure that I spray my pillow, relax, have my moments. So yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Your go-to treat after your daughter goes to bed?
Oh boy, a tea. Actually, I love to have my vanilla sleepy time tea.
I love tea too. That's nice. That's a nice routine. An ordinary moment that brings you great joy?
An ordinary moment that brings me great joy, oftentimes, is dinner time. And for me, it's where we talk about, my daughter and I, what we are grateful for each day and what was the best part of her day. And so it's just the conversation that comes up from that, like, makes me laugh or makes me tear up a little bit, because I just am like, wow, this is life, you know, and it is good even in the hard times. And so dinner time is pretty special to me, because after the fight of eating the vegetables, you know, here we are.
Yeah. You need a little sweetness after that fight. I know that.
Exactly.
Yeah. The last show you binged and loved?
Oh gosh, this is embarrassing. I actually am watching Inventing Anna, that just came out on Netflix, about the faux German heiress that constructed her life basically and kind of swindled the New York elite. And I just find the story interesting around her passions, her dreams, and what that took. So
I haven't watched that, but it sounds like I would really like it. So I'm going to have to check that one out too.
check that one out.
Yeah. If you run out of this besides milk, you have to go to the store.
Goodness me. Kombucha. I love
Oh,
kombucha.
yeah. Is that a go-to drink for you? Yeah.
That is a go-to drink between the tea and, well, I guess kombucha is tea. So
Yeah.
I have to go to the store for that.
You're like all the tea all the time. Yes.
All the time. And which I'm a huge coffee drinker, which is funny that I said tea is my, whatever. But
your heart is speaking. Who makes you laugh?
oh my gosh. Harper. Like the things she does and says, I'm just like, okay. Like what we were out trick-or-treating for Halloween, and I just want to share this because I do find it kind of funny. And she's walking, and there's this little 1-year-old or 2-year-old in a chicken costume. And we saw him going into the store, and then we see him coming out, and the chicken just scatters across the road. And she's like, "So why did the chicken cross the road, Mom?"
That's so cute. Her timing is perfect.
Comical timing. So
yes,
yeah,
great. When you were 5 years old, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Seriously, I wanted it to be a cashier at a store because they got all the money. Is what I.
You're like, they have the cash box, and I want that.
I didn't really get that. They didn't get to keep that money, but yeah, I still remember that.
That's so cute. What are you looking forward to?
What am I looking forward to? I'm actually looking forward to taking my daughter to Disney World for her 5th birthday. We have one of the, I talked about embracing my husband and the experiences, and one of her favorite photos is him and his sister in the Disney teacups. And then I have one of my husband and I in the Disney teacups. So we were going to go take a picture in the Disney teacups together.
Aww.
And so, yeah, that's how we're keeping some of the journey alive. So
that's really special.
November 20, I guess they're in 2022. November 2022, they're going to go.
Oh, that's great. I hope you guys have a wonderful time. That's really special.
Me too.
All right, last one.
Get out of the country.
Oh, yeah, exactly. We need to travel again. Yeah.
Yes.
All right, last one. Finish this sentence. Motherhood is
a journey. I know that's cliche, but yeah, a journey.
Yeah, that's good. All right, thank you so much, Danielle. I really appreciate your openness and just sharing about your husband and just letting us hear about Ian. Like, that was really beautiful, and your heart and your journey. And I know that this is going to encourage people and just meet them where they're at. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time today, too.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Motherhood Metamorphosis. If you've enjoyed this episode, please hit the thumbs up and subscribe to this channel so you never miss an episode. Next, tell your friends. Podcasts are a slow growth type of social media, so promo works best when it's from person to person. If you know another mom who's in the goop right now, send her a text of encouragement and the link to the episode that is speaking to your heart right now. If you have a story about your own matrescence, the physical, emotional, hormonal, and social transition that occurs when someone becomes a mother, please leave a comment below. I want this channel to be a place where women can build community about the challenges and joys of their own motherhood metamorphosis. Thank you so much for listening today. I hope it encouraged you and gave you some good food for thought. If you ever have any questions, comments, or you'd like to reach out to me personally, you can email me at brittanyaming@gmail.com.
Yeah. What's the connection between you and Kelly?
So Kelly and I have only met online. So that's our whole friendship. It's really funny. I've known her about 14 years because my boys are twin. My oldest are twins, like hers. They're really close in age. I think they're only like 2 weeks apart, her twins and my twins. So we were part of this cloth diapering Facebook group because we both did cloth diapers. And then we were like, oh, you have twins? And then we just started chatting. And then we became Facebook friends. And then we've just been in each other's Facebook feed, and then, sharing life through Facebook, and then chatting. Wow. Yeah. And this chatting, through Messenger occasionally. And So our friendship has just been this wonderful, long distance friendship over the years. So it's been, but I've never met her in person. So I think
Oh,
it's
she's a
really
pretty
cool.
spectacular lady. So
Yeah, she
yeah.
is. I mean, I've really enjoyed just getting to know her through the years too. And I just did a little cross stitch portrait for her family, and that was really fun. And I don't know, it's just like little things like that that are special. So I when I was thinking I was going to connect with you today, I'm like, here I am. Kelly has brought us together, but I have never spoken to Kelly in real life.